Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about the Ruger RXM, which is not a Glock Gen 3 clone, but instead it's something different because it has the chassis system, right? So a clone means it's a copy. This is not a copy, it does something different, and so the correct terminology would be to say it's Glock Gen 3 compatible. Spoiler alert, the shooting impressions. This gun shot great. I wish I had brought more ammo for it. I love the grip. It feels better to me than any Glock or Glock clone that I've tried, but I haven't tried the Grit Grips frame yet, which is on my list. The Magpul texture is excellent, but I do prefer the M&P 2.0 grip texture because I like aggressive grip texture. Trigger review. So the RXM has a rolling brake, which is not particularly smooth. It's similar to a Glock Gen 5, but the RXM's a little bit heavier. This one measures at 4.5 pounds compared to 4 pounds for a Glock Gen 5. In particular, the spring, which pushes the trigger forward, which you see right there, the striker spring, I think, in other words, feels stronger than a Glock OEM. I'm not going to mess with changing it. At the range, the trigger's fine because live fire tends to mitigate trigger problems. You have more to worry about on the range when you're shooting compared to when you're focusing on the trigger on your living room couch or whatever. But just to show you a few times and to compare to the Gen 5 Glock, see you've got that kind of rolling brake. It's a little bit shorter of a brake, it feels like to me, on the Glock. Now the grip, the gray color, I quite like it, but I'll say it's darker in person to me than it appears in photos. It's pretty dark. Let's see. Compare it to the black. Maybe there you can see. I love the iron sights, that serrated rear sight and the bright tritium front sight. It's a great combo, and they're at just the right height for co-witnessing through an optic. It gives you a low co-witness, not too high. We don't really need to see those sights in the middle of an optic if you choose to run one. Now the optics mounting system's great. I'm not going to show you that. I'm sure you've already seen other videos, but it allows mounting of all your major optics, the RMR, DPP, and Shield RMS footprints. You can definitely find an optic to fit this guy. The exception is if you do have a HoloSun K sight, it won't fit unless you leave off the front posts, because it's the higher Shield RMS pattern front posts that you can stick in here. But for this size pistol, you're probably going to want to run like an RMR sized optic anyway, so I don't think that's a really big deal. Competitive options. So the RXM, I don't see it as really a Glock competitor. It's definitely not going to take out Glock. It's more of a dagger competitor, I think. And if you've been watching PSA, they've been blowing out daggers for $250. The RXM runs about $100 more than that. Now, at the gun store where I bought this guy, he was a very knowledgeable guy. You know, you could tell he was actually into guns, and it was his hobby. He knew a lot, and you don't always find that in a gun store counter employee. But it was really great talking to him. He said that he would try to steer Glock buyers towards the RXM, but a lot of those buyers said, "I just want a Glock." And that's understandable, really. Glock's earned a lot of trust. The brand carries that reputation. And, you know, if you're not, like, into guns, Nobody ever went wrong with buying a Glock, right? It's sort of like buying a Toyota Corolla. You know it's going to get you from point A to point B. Doesn't really, have any flashiness to it or anything like that, but it just works. So Glock kind of stands on its own in that regard. But if you don't have to have a Glock, the RXM fills a really nice spot. Another competitive option, the Smith & Wesson M&P line. This is probably your main competitor to the Glock. I really like the grip texture. The optics mounting option I think is better than MOS, although it still uses plates. And if you put an Apex trigger in it, these are the best triggers you can get in a striker-fired gun. So very nice gun. Also cheaper than a Glock. Let me show you that trigger. Very nice. So let me just talk to you about the magazines a little bit. So obviously being a collaboration with Magpul, the RXM comes with PMAGs for the Glock. Now, versus OEM, a lot of people will say a Glock magazine is plastic. It's really not. It's metal surrounded by plastic. You see the interior there. You can kind of see the feed lips are metal, as well as you can see the metal there. If you wanted, you could actually peel away this plastic outer layer. So the PMAG is all plastic, and they do work. But what's the difference? So the plastic body compared to metal has a little bit more friction. So your cartridges, as they're moving up through the magazine and moving forward, being pulled against those plastic feed lips, it slows down the action a little bit. This means that your gun with a PMAG in it might stop working a little bit sooner as the gun gets dirty. But that slowdown to the action can actually be an advantage for something like an AR-9 that uses Glock magazines, because those guys typically have a violent action. They're pretty heavy recoil. Usually you use a very heavy bolt to slow down the action, but these guys will slow down the action just a little bit, and it might actually be better in your AR-9 than a real Glock OEM magazine. And this guy, I'll say, I had no failures at all, either with PMAGs or Glock OEM. It's a great shooting pistol. Love the feel of it. I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a Glock-type pistol. That's all I have for today. Thanks for watching.